Bertemu kembali. Di Malaysia, lebih 59 universiti awam dan swasta melahirkan sekitar 51,000 graduan setahun. Namun, hampir 60% graduan ini berdepan pengangguran malah selepas setahun mereka tamat pengajian. Antara sebab utama adalah ketidakpadanan dalam industri yang berlaku pada ketika ini dan ini adalah masalah struktur yang menuntut dasar yang tepat untuk penyelesaian. Namun, bagaimana usaha seperti mentor-menti boleh mempercepatkan usaha ini dan merapatkan jurang sedia ada? Kita bersama dengan pengasas Future Lab, Brian Tani bersedia pada ketika ini. Brian, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, statistics states that out of 51,000 graduates we produce annually, nearly 60% face unemployment even a year after graduation. It has become evident that the biggest reason for this is a mismatch in the skills that employees have and what employers need, of course causing structural unemployment. This is a structural issue which requires years of policies implementation to rectify. But what are the circumstances and limitations faced by the Malaysian workforce now?
So structural unemployment is when there's a mismatch in skills that job seekers, graduates have, and the skills that employers are looking for. And this has been accelerated due to the pandemic, due to the increasing demand for digital talent. I think traditionally, typical industries like oil and gas, F&B, retail, hospitality normally takes in a lot of graduates as well as a lot of working professionals. I think with the whole pandemic, these industries have been affected badly, and they haven't been able to hire as many young graduates, leaving a lot of them displaced. But we've also found that, if you look at F&B and retail, a lot of them are moving online now, right? Selling on Shopee, Lazada, Grab. So there's a huge, a lot more demand for these kind of digital marketeers, content creators, graphic designers that can help them sell these products online. So this is kind of like what we've been finding with the shift and also what's causing this structural unemployment issue in Malaysia.
And also, Brian, COVID-19 has, of course, further exacerbated the issue of structural unemployment. And now we are talking about, to further propel our effort to upskill and reskill our workforce. The idea sounds easy but hard to implement. What can we do more to improve on this area?
I think we need to go back towards like apprenticeships again. I think back in the day, there's a lot of, people used to actually teach other people how to do these things. I think moving forward and moving towards the digital era, I think we need to introduce digital apprenticeships, right? So these are digital marketeers working in the industry, teaching young graduates on how to do digital marketing. Software engineers in these big tech companies teaching graduates how to build software. So I think we need to move towards that. And if you do it that way, you have millions of these kind of experienced talent that can then mentor or teach, thousands or millions of students as well. So I do believe we need to build this kind of system where one person will teach another person instead of depending on just a university with one lecturer to teach a class of students, right? I think we need to move towards a more one-to-one digital kind of program apprenticeship in the country.
And also, right now, we cannot just tell graduates to go for an upskilling or reskilling. Rather, this issue requires a holistic approach, I would say, from all parties, including policymakers and also educational institutions as well. What can they do to combat unemployment issues more effectively, or rather, the mismatch we are facing right now?
I think you need to start when they're quite young, actually. But, that's a short, medium, and long term, right? In the long term, I think what's important is that we really need to communicate the importance of learning STEM subjects and also what they can do with it, right? I think a lot of young kids in high school, I can remember when I was in high school as well, we don't know much. We don't really know what's happening. And most of the times we're directed by our parents in what we should study and what we should do. But they are also wrong because they do not know what is going to come up in the future. So I think what we need to do a lot more is really show these students what is the importance of STEM, help them understand, help them understand themselves a bit more, what kind of jobs they want to do in the future, and then help them pick a degree that fits them, their personality, but also fits the kind of role that they want to move towards. So I think that's when we can start them a bit younger, like 14 to 17 years old. But I also think when we start going to university, of course, we need to look after them as well. Learning institutions really need to work more closely with industry. So, there are lots of things they can do, such as creating industry mentoring programs with university students, helping these students while they're at university understand about the industry, the skills they need to develop, and also their skill gaps. What are they currently missing in university that is not being taught but what is important when they're going to look for a job. So I think a few of these things need to come into play. And of course, I think everyone needs to learn how to speak English, because all these new technology advances coming from the West, right? So it's very important for us to understand what is coming into the East, in Southeast Asia. It will transition to this side. So you can always look what's happening in the U.S. and then understand, hey, this will happen here, right? Especially with the growth of startups in Southeast Asia. All these tech companies are trying to build these technologies here, and I will be looking for these kind of talent that are able to do this. So it's not an easy problem to solve, but there are ways that we can address it.
Brian, how Future Lab's initiatives run parallel to the 12 Malaysia plans, for instance, where the educational system needs to produce quality and also skilled human capital to meet industry demand?
We start working in high schools, but what we provide is that we give them exposure on terms of like what is the future of work. As I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of students, young kids nowadays, still go through the traditional Asian kind of degrees, right? These are your doctors, accountants, engineer, architect, businessman, so on, right? But I think what we need to show them as well is that, what is digital marketing, right? What e-commerce, what is software engineering, what is startups. So what we want to hope is that, these conversations, so we bring in these mentors into these schools, get them to talk about their career, get them to understand or get excited of what they want to be in the future. So this will give them exposure in terms of like what they want to study and like, who do they want to be when they grow up. So this is what we are doing. It's not directly in the 12 Malaysian plan, but I think for us, what we try to bring in is more of the career exposure and telling them what is coming up in the future, and they should be excited about it so that they can pick the right degree and the right courses for them to find their place in this digital world.
And also, Brian, Future Lab has an initiative in Sarawak under the Tegas Youth Founder Mentoring Program. Share with us what is it all about and how it helped youth, or rather social entrepreneurs there and nationwide maybe. How this has the potential to maybe solve unemployment in Malaysia while further boosting the country's economic prospects.
So in Sarawak, we run a young founder program. So this is, young aspiring entrepreneurs that want to, start a business, raise some funds for their company. So what we do is we actually match them with established tech entrepreneurs that have raised, VC funding from investors across Southeast Asia. And what these mentors do is really help them, guide them through the entire process, right? From identifying the problem, coming up with an innovative solution, and then also pitching the idea. Because it's always easier to learn from someone that has done it, right? So what we do is we link them to someone that has done these things in the same industry with the same kind of passion, and we get them to guide these young entrepreneurs. And the way that the entrepreneurship will solve unemployment is that they will hire more people, right? When smaller companies are growing well, they will hire more people. So what we try to do is with all these kind of entrepreneurship programs is really helping these entrepreneurs be successful so they can raise some money and then they can hire more people. But we also do this with, Magic and Cradle and also the Sarawak government. So there's a lot of great initiatives out there for young aspiring entrepreneurs that want to, start a company and, build a big business.
And of course, industries change rapidly, and adoption of digitalization was further accelerated by COVID-19. How Future Lab aims to onboard more IR 4.0 mentors onto your platform?
Yeah, so currently we have around 3,000 industry mentors across Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. And these mentors, cover the future workspace, as you mentioned, IR 4.0. So this is your digital marketeers, your data scientists, your software engineers, your drone tech guys, and so on, right? We're looking to onboard another 5,000 mentors. And what we're looking to do is actually work with corporations to help tech companies to get these mentors on board so that we can plug them into the ecosystem, which is the high schools, the startup accelerators, as well as the universities. Because there's also a benefit for these corporations to build up this talent, right, so that they can hire them later on as well for their own companies. So we'll be looking to working with a lot with companies, training up mentors in these companies, and then plugging them into our ecosystem.
Alright, Brian, thank you so much for spending time with us. Itu tadi Brian Tan daripada Future Lab. Kita berbincangkan tentang bagaimanakah masalah pengangguran pada ketika ini dan bagaimana Future Lab cuba untuk merapatkan jurang ini dengan mentor-mentee dan sebagainya, dan juga untuk matchkan kepakaran yang berlaku pada ketika ini. Ini menuntut usaha yang jitu dari semua pihak, termasuklah juga daripada Future Lab dan juga kerajaan, pembuat dasar dan sebagainya. Baik, kita akan berhenti rehat sekali lagi, kembali selepas ini.